Network. This is Trey Graham, joined by Melissa head football coach Matt Nally. Coach, the team got off to the wrong start. We have already talked about it. 0-2. You needed to get on the winning side, and you did. Big victory over Dallas Carter. Your JV squad won 42-0.
Yes,
Your
sir.
varsity team won 60-7, dominating on both sides of the football. Dallas Carter had negative total yards at halftime. Barely got into the positive yards by the end of the game. So talk about what was the difference. Your team played a lot better. You felt a lot better. The result was better. What changed?
Well, first I'd like to talk about my sub-varsities. My freshman and my JV teams are they've impressed me the most. I have two freshman teams and I have a JV team, and those kids really battle and really grind throughout the week trying to get better. And not just that, it's a testament of our coaching staff and how important those kids are. So my JV's undefeated, and both my freshman teams are 1-1. So I'm really excited about both those group of kids. Really, to be honest with you, what changed was we went from being extremely advanced in our schemes to not being extremely advanced. So, and what I mean by that is we went from, we skipped second, third, and fourth gear. We just went from first to fifth gear.
In this past game?
No.
Okay,
In the two previous games,
okay.
And we talked about youth and inexperience, and we're going to have to get to a point where youth and inexperience can't be our excuse anymore. It's going to have to be our strength, and the only way to make that our strength is we're going to have to condense things, and we're going to have to make sure those kids get really good at the basic stuff. So going into the Carter game, I stripped down the offense and I stripped down the defense. Our defense can stop the run. Okay, well, so what can we do in the back end to make sure those kids are successful in the back end? So we stripped our coverages. And then the same thing on the offensive side of it. We had some kids.
Simplified.
There you go. We simplified everything. I went back to, it was great at one point in time. I was just, we were talking about scouting and whatnot and being the young guy, but I was the young guy in 2002. Now it's 2021 and I'm now the old guy. And when I'm talking, these young guys are like, hey, yeah, whatever, well, we went back to old school practicing. And this is the way that I feel the most comfortable doing things. And not just that, I just feel like it gives kids a better look. So we simplified everything that we did, and we went to more group and team settings. And I mean, for me personally, I was more impressed with my football team on Friday night than I've been going even back to last year.
Do you feel like this was something you should have done earlier in the year?
No doubt. But when you get amped up, and when we had the ranked third in the state ranking, I told a buddy of mine, I said, at the beginning of the year, that's probably not correct. Now, by the end of the regular season, I see that being correct. But we all kind of thought that offensively and defensively that we could get to fourth and fifth gear. Well, we just didn't, we didn't do a good job of judging where we were at in fall camp. So, and nothing taken away from Pleasant Grove or White House, but I noticed some things in the White House scrimmage. I was like, I think we're moving too fast, because we were coming out of fall camp doing things that we didn't even do last year during the season. So, and yet, that happens when you have a returning quarterback, and that happens when you have a returning defensive line and outside backers. But once again, we have to protect those kids that this is their first year on the varsity. And this is the first time they're hearing some things, especially at a base. So that was the biggest deal for me, and I'm the special teams coordinator this year. So special teams has always been a big deal for me. And
good, because I have a special teams question.
All right. But that was a big deal for me. I had to simplify that as well and say this is what we're doing and we're not getting away from it.
This is Trey Graham with Matt Nally. This is the Cardinal Scoreboard Show. We're joining you from the Dugout Sports Grill. And since you're busy on Friday nights, you're not listening to Coach Deal and me on Friday nights. But if you were, you'd hear me say, catch the punt. Why? Why let it bounce and let it roll and give them 20 more yards of field position?
Obviously, that's not the goal, and you have to stick a kid back there that has a little guts to do that, and we do. We have kids that'll do that, but we tell them when in doubt, let it go. because at the end of the day, we don't want to muff it and change possession. If you don't feel like that you have a good beat on it, just, hey, man, just let it go. And we call Peter to, get everyone away, and we'll live to fight another day.
Same kind of question. We get this by the listeners and the viewers. Why not kick the ball deep on a kickoff?
Well, the reason being is first off, football has changed. And the way football has changed is this: if you kick it past the 25, they can just fair catch it, and they get the ball on the 25. So we're like, why kick it deep? So we sky kick. For us, it's an offensive play. So we're going to sky it looking for a muff, and usually teams will fair catch it.
Which is football terminology for a fumble, a drop ball.
And, they're going to get it at the 27, and hopefully we're going to try to get a muff kicked. But, not just that. If you look, we look like one thing, and then we'll shift into another thing, and we'll do some things out of it, and the kids enjoy that. So that's the reason being, the total reason. If they would not have that rule in, we would kick it deep. But for us, we're going to kick it. We have 3 dogs back there. So if you want to kick it to us, bring it on. We're going to try to return it. But for the most part, most people are going to fair catch it, and we just don't seem like that's big of a deal, in the regards of, I just think football in that regard it's just not a good thing for the game.
So I'm sitting there with Coach Kenny Deal, but I'm quoting Coach Dave Phillips, kick it deep and go hit somebody. That's the way it used to be.
Right.
But you're right, the fair catch rule does change that.
Right. And you can't wedge anymore. You can't have wedge busters anymore. Everything is zone blocking. It's just not the way kickoff and kickoff return should be. And you've seen a decrease in kickoffs return. You've seen a decrease in people kicking it deep just because of that rule, and just because of not just that, but other things like, I was never a wedge buster, but you had a kid. I'm sure you know the kid. I know the kid that was the wedge buster on my football team, and you had to be a different kind of crazy to be that guy, but you had a ton of respect for that guy. But there's a lot of kicks, that returned in my day because of the wedge, and you could do different things, and you just can't do that. It's really a lot of man-on-man and zone, and, sometimes, for the most part, and we coach the heck out of it. We do. We coach the heck out of it, but, at the end of the day, if they kick it to the 19, you can fair catch and get on the 25, so...
A couple of inside football special teams questions there. Coach, let's talk about the defensive player of the game, Caleb Otlewski, offensive player of the game, Sam Finnegan, both outstanding performances last Friday.
Yes, sir, you can't. First off, talking about Caleb, Caleb is, first off, he looks the part.
He's taller than you and me, isn't he?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah.
But the thing is, too, is when you talk to him, he's such a gentle, I call him, he's a gentle giant. He's so sweet and so nice, and then, boy, he'll put those pads on, and he's a different character. Just all over the field, he's a ball hawk. Just so excited for his progression, and not just that. Like when he moved in last year, we didn't know what we had. He was our backup JV quarterback. And he was in a scrimmage.
Turned into something else.
Right. He was in a scrimmage, and we were like, oh my gosh, this kid is killing people, So we ended up bringing him up and putting him at outside backer, and then that's history. And then with Sam needed that game. Sam had, first off, I'm going to be this way for as long as I'm a coach, and that is, to be the best, you got to beat the best. And we're going to be calloused going into district play. And I am not going to be that guy that's going to...
We talked about it, the cupcake theory.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. That's just not who I am. I'm going to play really good football teams. And if I get fired one day because of not winning enough games, that's fine. That's, like I said, that is not my philosophy. My philosophy is we're going to be battle tested before we get into district play, and it's about shining in the playoffs. And I want my team to be callous before we get to that point in time. It happens every year. I can bring up team after team after team. We can talk about Kennedale last year. They're 10-0. And their district was, just to be honest with you, the district's not very good. And they're in a situation where they have to come play us. And, things happen. And they we're the best team that they played at that point in time, and I don't want that. I want to make sure that my team has played quality teams, and once we get into the playoffs, round 1, round 2, round 3, that's not the best team we've played all year. So that's just my philosophy in that regard. So Sam needed that because I think it had to do a little bit with confidence, but he needed to get back on track in the regards of his reads, getting back on track with the rhythm of the receivers and whatnot. But Sam he's our guy. He's our field general. The one thing about Sam that is better than any quarterback I've ever had, and that's even the kid that was playing against Texas A&M over the weekend. Sam is extremely accurate, and that's what makes him special. Brendan, and I could go Tate, and I can go back, way back. And Jamal and all those kids were phenomenal players. But Sam's the most accurate quarterback I've ever had.
So let's talk about the Midlothian Heritage Jaguars. Pre-game show on the Melissa Cardinals Network will begin Friday at 7 p.m., kickoff at 7:30. Back at the home field. It's good to be back home for a game. Talk about Midlothian Heritage.
Everything's going to go through their quarterback. He's extremely a good player.
Caden Brown.
Caden Brown was the defensive MVP last year in their district as a sophomore. He played Mike Backer. Moved over to the quarterback position. Extremely tough, agile, athletic. He just plays quarterback like a linebacker. And then their running back, number 3, is extremely talented, and they got one really big receiver on the outside, one really good, quick little receiver on the other side. Up front, they're pretty good up front. And then the defensive side of the ball, number 8 and number 9, their safeties are the kids that 9's my favorite football player. I love a safety that'll come and fit in the run game, and 8 will too, but 9 comes down with a fury. So they're a good football team. They do some different things special teams wise that it's going to take us some time this week as we go through our game prep and practice how we're going to do things. They do the 2-kicker thing on kickoff, and they're going to do some fake punts and try to throw it to the center and things like that. So we've got to be prepped in that regard, and it's going to take some time. And he's a really good coach, and that staff does a really good job. So it'll be a fun game to be a part of, and we're excited to be a part of it.
Last question: what's the situation with COVID right now statewide? Melissa ISD, your team. What's the effect of COVID right now?
Well, I'm going to knock on wood. We haven't had COVID on our team. I was very fortunate last year to get it during fall camp, and then we didn't have another issue with it on our varsity. This year, the same situation. I've had a couple kids get it on my varsity, but no close contact, anything like that. But they did test positive. When it comes to the state of Texas, I don't know that answer. I can tell you this, that
quite a few games around the state have been canceled so far.
Right. I don't know the answer to that, and my mom asked me that question over the weekend, and I don't know because back in East Texas, it's turned into an epidemic. It is out of control. So I don't know how that works. In Melissa, I've been assured by my athletic director that if we were to get shut down, we would still practice and play football. So
if the classes go online?
If the classes go online, yes, sir.